Hi Shiren, in this video you are going to learn about the defense against infectious disease, and I think this is linked to the subtopic that we just discussed in the class about emphysema. So if you still remember, in the alveoli there are some white blood cells that are patrolling to protect the alveolus. So today we are going to talk about more about the defense system that we have in our body. First, before we talk about the immune system, we have to know who are our enemies, or we call it pathogens. Basically, the definition of a pathogen is a disease-caused agent that disturb the normal physiology of the infected organism. So, for example, if you got the virus, flu virus, it means that you cannot work normally, you cannot study well because you cannot concentrate. Your body temperature could raise. You can have fever. So, based on the definition, it means that the pathogen disturb our normal physiology, right? And here on this slide, you can see different types of pathogens that you can find surrounding us, including the ones that are living things. We categorize them as living things, including the parasites such as worms, and then protozoa that could be waterborne. So if you drink like the water that is not boiled yet, you could actually engulf some of the protozoa and the fungi. Like usually it happens on the surface of the skin, and bacteria for sure is something that common. And also there are some acellular pathogens or non-living things. We know the virus are not living things. I hope you remember the definition of living things means the organism can do the 7 living functions. But if you still remember, virus cannot do the reproduction by itself, but it's actually hijack the host reproductive system so that the host, rather than producing proteins for itself, it will produce the proteins for the virus. And the other one, which is this is not something that maybe you have learned in the past, is called prion. Basically, they are very very creepy. So there are proteins that have been altered, so they are kind of like weird, and they can replicate themselves. All right. Using the mechanism of our body. So we are not going to talk about prion and in the IB syllabus, so you can skip that one. So this is just for fun, pathogens in our daily life. So the first picture on your left, you can see bacterial levels in the office equipment, including in our school. Now, maybe you now realize that actually the copy machine, based on this research, has the most or the highest amount of bacteria. So be careful. Why? Because anyone in this school building, of course, they have access to the printer machine, and you never know what kind of things that they have touched before they touch the printing machine. So you better be careful next time. All right. So the next one is the doorknob, and then the coffee pot handle. Well, we don't have it here, but we do have the water dispenser. Again, all students or teachers or the staff that get or fetch water from the water dispenser, they always have to use their fingers. And to be honest, nobody really know like the condition how clean the fingers are before they touch the water dispenser. And then the other picture on your right side, you can see the germ spots in your home. All right. So apparently, the dirtiest of all is I think this is the dish sponge, right? Okay, yeah, of course. Because you usually use your to clean up the dishes, and some of the food, remaining could stay in the sponge, and then it is actually the food source for bacteria. So you can see all these pictures, and now I hope you become more aware about where are the pathogens are hiding in our daily life. And on this slide, you can see the entrance for the pathogens to invade our body. All right. Remember, we are an organism that is not a closed system. We always interact with our environment. So, for example, in order to see, it means that our eyes have to receive the lights from the environment. In order to be able to know what is happening surrounding us, especially when you are in the class to listen to the teachers, it means that your ears must have an opening to let the voice to get into the ears. So, however, actually it also provides the openings or the entrance for the pathogens, right? So here on this slide, you can see that other than the eyes and the ears, we also have the nose, the mouth, the urethra, and the broken skins as the opening for the pathogens. And you can see here from on your left, the broken skin. Bacteria can invade the broken skin and it can create boils, right? Like the pus because of the infection. And of course, this is the famous case, the COVID-19 from the nose, right? From the mouth. Those are the openings for the virus. And also this one is pretty common, especially in females, the urethra, because the female urethra is pretty short and bacteria can invade, go directly to the urethra easily. And one of the symptoms that can be easily observed is the urine become cloudy because of the infection, and usually it causes them like severe pain when the patient has to urinate. So those are the possible openings that provide entrance for the pathogens to invade our body. So if there's so many pathogens around us, and like it or not, we must have some openings to receive information from the environment. So how to deal with that situation and to ensure that we remain alive for quite a long time, right? Without being invaded by the pathogens so frequently. So that's the reason why we have the immune system, our ultimate line of defense. Right. So there's, you can see from the slide there, like mind map the levels of defense, the line of defense. We start with the external, which is the simplest one. All right. Like if you talk about the country, you also have to find, oh, by the way, like in China, you must be proud with your Great Wall, right? So Great Wall serves as an external or the barriers for the invaders from coming into the country, right? So we are going to talk about the first layer of the immune system, which is the external, in the next slide. So the first external defense is our skin, which is the largest organ in our body, right? So imagine like if you calculate all the surveys of your body covered by skin, you will get a big organ. Now, purposely, I put this Korean actress, one of the most beautiful Korean actresses, right? You can see that her skin looks very healthy, very fair, very smooth, okay? But actually, under the microscope, even the healthiest, the best looking skin, actually the first layer of the skin contain dead cells. You can see from the picture, the first diagram on the left side. So on the top layer, there are dead cells, and beneath it you can also see the microscopic image from the scanning electron microscope. So basically those dead cells create a thick layer. Why there should be that skin? Because that skin, that cells or that skin cells act as the physical barrier by being like they are hard, they're thick, and it's hard for the pathogens to penetrate it. All right. So it's a tough region that cannot easily penetrated by the pathogens. Other than that, our skin also produces some chemicals that inhibit the growth of fungi or other microbes like the bacteria. So it's called the sebaceous glands. Well, basically, they are the oil producing glands, all right, that located on our skin. Now, other than that, our skin also secretes lactic acid and fatty acid to lower the pH of our skin. Okay, because most bacteria cannot survive in acidic environment. And on this slide I also put, like, this is not commercial, but I know there is one brand for cleaning product. It's called the Sebamed, and the pH is 5.5, which is usually, maybe chemistry student, you know that most soap, actually the pH is pretty high, or base, right? Higher than 7. Actually, those pH that higher than 7 is not really good to protect our skin. because bacteria love the kind of base to neutral environment. So this product actually helps us not only to moisturize our skin, but also to protect the from our skin from the growth of bacteria. But once again, sorry, this is not commercial, just for your information. And the second type of external defense is the mucous membrane. I think we have discussed about this when we talk about emphysema. So the nasal cavity, which consists of our nose and the trachea, are covered with mucus, all right? And the function of the mucus is to trap bacteria or pathogens or any other foreign materials so that they will be immobilized, and then by using the ciliated cells found in our trachea, they will be swept out through our nostril. Now, I know there is a cute baby picture there. Actually, this is to explain that when you have flu and you have runny nose, the reason why we have runny nose is because our body try to respond to the pathogens invasion by producing more mucus, so that the chance for the pathogens to be trapped in the mucus is higher. Right. So let's see some from this. This is from BioNinja, some more description of the mucous membrane. First, it protects the internal structure. So the difference between the skin and this is we're talking about the internal structure, something that gets into our body, like the nostrils or the vagina or the urethra. So they're all moist because of the mucus, all right? And it consists of a thin region of living surface cells that release fluids to wash away pathogens, right? So, for example, in our mouth, we have saliva. In our ears, sorry, we in our eyes, we have the tears, and so on. And it contains biochemical defense agents, which is lysozyme. I hope you still remember about the lysosome. This is from chapter 1 that digests bacteria or any pathogen that is engulfed by the bacteria by our cell, okay. And these lysozymes are actually digestive enzymes, so they can digest the cell wall of bacteria and so on. And mucous membrane may be ciliated, like in our trachea, to aid the removal of the pathogens, right, into the nostril. So we have talked about the external or the barriers, the first line of our defense system. Now, what if I put a picture there, a baby trying to, the parents let him to pass through the barrier, which is the barbed wire. Now, the same thing could happen in our body, right? So the pathogens could escape or pass through the mucus and also the skin. So what is the second line of defense, all right, that happens in our body or internally? So the first line defense, internal line defense, is called the phagocyte, all right? Maybe from its name you can kind of like, this is kind of sounds like familiar for me, because in topic 1 actually you have learned about phagocytosis and pinocytosis. Yes, so it is something connected to it. Now, however, in this diagram you can see the other type of the first line of defense internal that we have internally. It's called the natural killer cells. We're not going to talk about it, all right? The function of that natural killer is to kill the cancer cells, so our own cells that get mutated. But for this IB syllabus, you are not going to learn about this. But by all means, if you want to further research about it, for your, like maybe if you want to go to a medical school, that's okay, by all means. But I'm not going to talk about it in this class. Phagocyte is non-specific defense, which means that any bacteria, any virus, any pathogen that gets into our body because they pass through the barrier of the skin and the mucus, phagocyte will engulf it, all right? They will not think like, oh, this is virus, not my job. No. Every single pathogens that can penetrate through the barrier, the external barrier, will be engulfed by the phagocytes. That's why it's called the non-specific. That's why you can guess maybe after this the next will be the specific defense. We will talk about it in the next video. All right, anyway, let's see the first point. Phagocytes are basically white blood cells that ingest pathogens by endocytosis. So you have learned about this in chapter 1, and you can see from the animation on your left, you can see that this phagocyte chasing a bacteria, and the round things that looks like donut are basically, they are the red blood cells. So this is a slide that is created when the sample of blood taken from human body and pathogens are released, and the observer try to see what happened. All right, and the next one, inside of phagocytes are pathogens. Inside the phagocyte, the pathogen will be digested by enzyme from the lysosome. I think I've mentioned it in the previous slide, and I put a picture here beneath the animation. You can see that lysosome is basically a fascicle inside the cell that contain digestive enzyme. So when the white blood cell phagocyte engulf the bacteria by using the endocytosis process, it will become the food vacuole, and then the lysosome will combine with the food vacuole and release the digestive enzyme inside the food vacuole, and then of course the bacteria will be digested by the lysosome. All right, and the enzyme is called the lysozyme. And the other thing that is unique about phagocyte, they are super flexible. So that's why they can squeeze out through the pores of blood capillaries. We have talked about the blood capillaries, the pores of the blood capillaries in the previous chapter, which is the circulatory system. And why they need to squeeze out? Because sometimes the site of the infection is not, or maybe most of the time, not happen in the blood capillaries, but in the tissue, the muscle tissue. All right, so maybe you have experienced this, for example, like paper cut. Well, it doesn't cause you to bleed, but still the bacteria that, nothing sterile in this world, right? So the bacteria that attach to the paper might get into your skin or your muscle, and it is the job of the phagocyte to engulf those bacteria. And in order to enter or go to the infection site, the phagocyte must release themselves from the blood capillaries by squeezing themselves out from the pores of the blood capillaries. So the next question to help you to be ready for the video in the next meeting is, what if phagocytes are unable to capture all the pathogens? So they escape. So after the pathogen can pass through the barrier, the external barrier, and if the pathogens also can escape from the patrolling phagocytes, what will happen? Does it mean that we don't have any other defense system to attack them? Well, not really, because in the next video you will learn more about the immune system, which is the highest defense level. So it's kind of like the CIA of the immune system, all right? Or we call it like specific defense system. All right, see you in the next video.